It's the golden era of Hong Kong cinema in book format, but with a magical twist. I just finished reading Fonda Lee's Jade City and had a pretty good time, even though, of course, there are some parts that I didn't totally resonate with. So hello, my name is Zach, and on this channel, it's mostly book reviews that are science fiction and fantasy, but I also delve into other genres that I enjoy, such as comics, manga, personal development, and business books. So today we are delving into finally back on the fantasy kick and reading a book that is a little YA-ish. And it became highly recommended. I see it recommended all the time. It's on best of list for fantasy novels, and that's Jade City by Fonda Lee, because it's an Asian-inspired fantasy, but also sort of political intrigue with a bit of YA elements. So it's got a mix of genres, and that's what was kind of hit or miss. This may be the perfect blend of genres for you. For me, some elements were lacking, but some were still pretty good. And overall, I just really like the vibes of the world that Lee creates in Jade City. So what the book is, if you haven't heard about it, with all the numerous book talk, booktube, and just general social media recommendations, is that it takes place in an alternate fantasy world, but it's Asian inspired with kind of vague where it's actually set or what it's inspired by. And reading it, I got the vibes that it was like Hong Kong, because it talks about a mountain in the background, this peak, and you think of Hong Kong peak. But I also thought of, okay, what other kind of island nations which had warring factions? Is it sort of like maybe like a Singapore, Malaysia kind of inspired-ish island nation? But to me, the way the writing was written, that I think it's supposed to be like a Hong Kong inspired more than anything else, but it does kind of blend elements of a bunch of different cultures and genres. So in this Hong Kong inspired island nation, maybe like a Wakanda sort of, because in this world is the only place to get not vibranium, it is to get Jade, and Jade has magical powers in this world, so the people of this island can use the Jade to unlock their potential and become almost superhero-esque, just enhanced abilities when they use their Jade powers, and only the inhabitants of Kekon Island can use the Jade powers. So in the larger context of the world, yeah, kind of like Wakanda, or it also reminded me a lot of X-Men, the most recent Krakoa saga, where they produce a certain drug on the island that everyone wants, and so they had this like kind of trading alliance with all the other parts of the world, but they're not really, the other nations and countries don't really play too much of a role, other than one of our main characters. She does venture out to this other world, which seems like an American inspired or Britain inspired, if you got the parallels from our current reality, that she goes there to study but then comes back. So we kind of follow her narrative as she returns to the family, and she's part of one of the major, not crime families, but one of the major controlling families, if you think of it in triads. So again, this is where I was drawing the parallels from my love of Hong Kong cinema, the golden age of HK cinema in the 80s and 90s. You have triad movies like Young and Dangerous or Election, all these movies about triad culture and just Hong Kong in general. And so we follow her story as she returns to the family. And then we also follow the other main members of the family of one of the triad groups of No Peak. We have the current successor who is kind of like taking care of the day-to-day business and running it under the tutelage of the Grand Master, who is retiring and getting old, and he's part of kind of the last old guard. And we get flashbacks to the glory days and how kind of the world came to be in its current state now, with this kind of second generation of leaders between the main clans, Mountain and No Peak. And then also following the kind of family drama, you have another protagonist, which is the cousin, kind of the adopted son of the family, who a little bit tropey is half-breed, you could say. He has the Kekon like native control over Jade, but he's also a dual parentage with another clan that's known to be wild and aggressive. So
is, there's this kind of underlying of, is the Jade gonna control him and make him go mad, or is he gonna become the savior, the strongest one of all? And it doesn't really explain in this first novel, but you can definitely tell that's where they're going with this character's storyline. So it's got a bunch of stuff going on in the novel, and it follows kind of the warring factions and all these events that are kind of coming together, the past, the present, outside forces. This overarching like plot that goes through at least this first novel is that the other clan, the Mountain Clan, is developing trade with outside countries, and by opening up the border to their resource of this Jade, they're losing their monopoly that only they can control it, because there's a synthetic substance that lets non-natives use Jade as if they were. So there's kind of like this clash of ideals and native culture, like, preserving your culture almost, but it's their warrior culture and their magic culture. So yeah, a lot of parallels to Wakanda in the Marvel comics. I definitely got those kind of feelings and vibes. So it's a lot of different stories, and there is, again, gangster kind of triad action where they have territories and they control the territories, and there's a little bit of fighting and battles, but that's maybe one of the negatives, that it wasn't overly descriptive of the fights. This isn't Cradle, which is also Asian inspired, but more on the progression fantasy or the wuxia genre, where they're definitely super powered and they're training and cultivating and growing like some of the other Chinese donghua animes, which my current one I'm watching, Renegade Immortal, or Tales of Herding Gods. There's some current donghuas that I really enjoy watching the animations for, but it's not that super powered, that kind of cultivation progression fantasy. This is more grounded, like Hong Kong style street fights between gangsters, but with the added added dynamic, I guess you could say, that they are the leaders of the clans are Jade powered. So we do see some extra powered up fights, but not flying around and using psychic blasts and all these other cultivation kind of style attacks. It's more grounded fist fighting, just enhanced fist fighting, enhanced strength, enhanced speed. There is a little bit of control of the elements, kind of like an airbending. I got also kind of like Last Airbender kind of vibe, some of this as well, with the clans and the powers and the bending and the way they use and control the Jade. So those were all the cool things. So when you look back at it, there are a lot of great things going on, great ideas and great vibes. I really like the island setting, because again, they talk about the cars and the culture and the way it's set up with the territories. Definitely reminded me of triads and controlling territories, this kind of gangster vibe of the golden era of Hong Kong cinema. What didn't work for me a little bit was kind of the YA-ish feel. So that's why I mentioned there are a couple storylines, and the cousin storyline takes place at the martial arts training academy for future Jade warriors. And his storyline involves a little bit of YA tropes, because it's that school setting. He has a romantic interest that seems to be same sex. So they're sort of exploring some of the themes that are a bit cliche or tropey in YA books about the young teenager growing up in an academy and coming into his own as he joins the clan, and he's dealing with his feelings and his sense of belonging, because one parent went crazy because of his kind of half-blood powers of the crazy half, but is he gonna matriculate into the family and join and become the savior of the family because he's that balance of two worlds? So there's a bit of a cliche setup there, but it's still interesting vibes. And overall, the general novel, it flowed well, it passed the time well, it didn't really overstick its landing, except for me the slow parts were some of the political intrigue and some of the school setting. So it's not all action, it is a bit of character study, character development of politics, and kind of that triad gangster politics between clans, and figuring out who's doing what, who's controlling what territory, those sort of things. So if that sounds interesting and that it could work for you, if you enjoy Hong Kong cinema that kind of focuses on that triad dynamic, I definitely think this is a great novel for you. I do see why it's recommended so well, because it's that kind of multi-genre. So it's not just fantasy where it's a lot of super powered fights. That is a small element, but it's not the whole thing. Whereas I maybe because I'm in this kind of grim dark era of my reading, I wanted more gritty, dirty Hong Kong style, but it's more of the like bright and shiny golden age nostalgic view of 80s 90s Hong Kong. So it's definitely cool. It's not bad. It's just my personal mood at the moment for my reading. I want a little more action, a little more blood and guts, whereas this is like urban almost fantasy because it takes place in cities, so it's like an urban fantasy, not dragons and mythical creatures. It just suddenly powered up humans. So overall for me, it was a hit. I don't know if I'm going to read the second book right away just because, like I said, I am kind of on this fantasy, like epic fantasy kick. So I'm currently also reading some of the other greats like John Gwynne. So I'm going to go back to my Abercrombies and Gwynnes and kind of delve into that. But I think this will definitely be on the horizon for me to check out this second book in Jade City eventually, once I catch up on my ever-growing TBR list of reads right now. So thanks for watching this review of Fonda Lee's Jade City. Hope you enjoyed it and see you on the next video.